Welcome back to Strife Talking Points. This is going to be part two of Bernie's speech, where he basically has been talking about how the far right is rising all across the world, and it's his job and our job to rally to fight them. When I don't see what he's going over, again, I am only making conjecture about my opinions to what Bernie's saying and the things he's leaving out, and the pure political rhetoric that we have going on in our country today of the U.S. And, well, anyway, here we go.
Today, we now see a handful of billionaires with unprecedented wealth and power.
That is very true. He gives a part at the very beginning of this speech, if you didn't watch it live, where he talks about the richest 26 people in the world own more property than the lower 3.5 billion. Basically, half the people in the world own less than 26 people, which to me is a fairly serious issue. However, there are entire nations where the people of that nation subsist on less than $1 a day. And keep in mind that if you live in the U.S., if you live in the West, you are in the top 10% of the world's population, the world's earning population. Even if you are flat broke living in a city in the U.S., you are better taken care of than people all around the world. That is a indisputable fact that the U.S., even people making minimum wage in the U.S., are better off than people all around the world. That is something that we as a country need to understand and just come to grips with.
We see huge private monopolies operating outside of any real democratic oversight and often subsidized by taxpayers.
Now that is something there that does truly bother me. These huge monopolies in oil and gas, in tech, in medicine, in insurance don't really have any oversight. As you watch my first video, you see the breakdown of how much money they donate into politics, and the finance sector is one of the biggest. Pharmaceuticals is also another big one. Oil and gas is big, but much smaller than either of the other two. And tech monopolies donate an insane amount of money into the U.S. political system.
The power to control almost every aspect of our lives.
Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, which you have to be because I really only put a few videos on Minds or any other platform, YouTube, Google, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, these are massive tech monopolies which say they are platforms and they don't regulate speech. However, in the last few years, we've been seeing them crack down very handedly on any ideas they disagree with. Now, them being all basically headquartered in a certain region of California puts the people that work there to an extreme liberal bias. If misgendering can get you banned from a platform when over half of the U.S. population doesn't think that's a thing, you see the bias implicitly in everyday usage. You see it just everywhere that their bias is extremely skewed one direction, and now you're seeing Facebook themselves say that if you don't break the rules, you will still be demonetized, you will still be banned from our platform. Now, monetization, I don't believe that if you're on Facebook, you have a right to be monetized. However, if Facebook runs commercials on your videos, then yes, you probably should deserve a cut of that because it's your video drawing the view, not the ad itself. But hey, banning people from the ad platform goes back to the idea of publisher, which publisher platform debate comes into play there. But anyway, my 2 cents on what he's just said there.
They are the profit-taking gatekeepers of our healthcare, our technology, our finance system, our food supply, and almost all of the other basic necessities of life.
Now, I'm going to throw in there, he didn't talk about communication and media. Communication and media are definitely gatekeepers. When you use that phrase, gatekeeper, it's someone who says you can't get involved in it. However, I do want you to know right now that if you want to start a small business, the only real gatekeeper is your ability to form such a business and move forward with it. However, if you wish to be in media, in public domain stuff, there are a ton of gatekeepers. There's actually a video from, I believe it was CNN the other day, where there was a panel on, and they discussed the fact that they needed to be gatekeepers. The journalist class, needs to decide what is and isn't discussions for the people of a country. They wanted to set out how they should gatekeep and control what's being said. As far as social media is concerned, we've seen over the last few years interference in elections coming from social media, mass flagging campaigns, disinformation from social media, huge issues in our elective process and how our country functions through the use of media and social media, and the rise of identitarian politics and the politics of fear.
And let us name them. They are Wall Street, the insurance companies, the drug companies, the fossil fuel industry, the military-industrial complex, the prison-industrial complex, and giant agribusiness.
Now notice there he left out all the communication and tech companies, which are extremely biased to the liberal side, who are currently in process of pushing out any dissenting ideas, and this is in the lead up. Most people, including myself, I don't want to conspiracy theorize myself too much, but I believe this is all the lead up to the 2020 election, when any voice will be silenced, shut down, pushed out, and they will have a almost liberal monopoly on any discussion. Even though the majority of the country doesn't believe in that, all the surveys I've seen says it's between 8 to 10% of the population pushes that. And just because that 8% of the population is all concentrated around these centers of power, New York, Los Angeles, Silicon Valley, that's the story you get presented. Now, he did go after fossil fuel industry, healthcare, insurance, private prisons, a horrible idea in the military-industrial complex. However, he himself is pushing for the stuff in Venezuela and these other countries where we're enforcing our will upon other nations. We do it via essentially siege warfare and clamping down on trade by issuing all kinds of edicts, basically shutting down the economies of the country, limiting their ability to trade, sanctions. The U.S. is dominated by this current corporatist idea, and unfortunately I do believe Bernie's sliding into that, where we believe that we should have control over other nations. And I personally don't think we should, and I think we should have less to do in other countries' politics, not fully an isolationism type deal like we had before World War I and World War II, but I don't think our government policy should override that of the people of another nation.
They are the entities with unlimited wealth who surround our nation's capital with thousands of well-paid lobbyists who, to a very significant degree, write the laws that we live under.
100% agree there. I do believe that lobbying and the lobbyist groups should be removed from Washington. A lawmaker, a congressman, a senator, a president should be held accountable to their constituents, to their voters. That is a long-term thing that the U.S. really needs to work out some way of doing, destroying the corporate money in politics, destroying, hopefully, eventually removing these super PACs to where it is literally just people representing their constituents in the government and passing laws to benefit the people of the country. However, again, saying that you should represent your constituents and not other people can be seen as a far-right idea, because that goes back to populism, removing all the barriers, all the other groups from it, representing your people directly. It's a populist idea, and it is very much on the nationalist swing.
Today, we have a demagogue in the White House who, for cheap political gain, is attempting to deflect the attention of the American people away from the real crises that we face, and instead
what is the real crises that we face, because I believe we do have a national crisis at our southern border. We do have a lot of stuff going wrong, but I haven't really seen the president deflecting it. I've seen Congress and the legislature doing nothing about it. Nothing.
Is doing what demagogues always do, and that is to divide people up and legislate hatred.
The president doesn't pass legislative bills. He only passes executive orders, which he signs, and then they become enacted. The Congress of our U.S. has, for the last few days, done almost nothing. Yesterday, I believe they finally passed the 9/11 Caregivers Heroes Fund, where they actually are going to continue the health care, the treatment of the people affected by the 9/11 attacks. And the only other real vote I saw was where they held hearings about why they should be able to get information not legally afforded to them, which goes back to what they're trying to do with the Trump obstruction case. Since collusion failed, now they're moving on to obstruction. And Bernie is calling him a demagogue when most of the stuff you see from any politician could be moved into demagoguery. I would refer to Trump more as a narcissist than a demagogue, but that's just how I see him.
This is a president.
All right, if you want to keep listening in to Senator Bernie.
Oh, and they're cutting me off. All right, that is video 2. It's much shorter than video 1. However, I do hope you watch this. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, dislike the video. Let me know what you think, because I'm not in charge of you. I'm just trying to reach out. Thank you, and hope you have a wonderful day.